Well, it seemed Dementia Joe had an interview the other day after he woke up from his long nap with this.
Figures creating laws and bills that are actively trying to harm us transhumans, especially trans children.
What, are you retarded?
Mental illness begets mental illness. I'm Jazz Berganzo, and this is what's next. Good Tuesday, everyone. Jazz Berganzo here, another episode of What's Next, your daily dose. Hope you guys are doing well today. Well, this story kind of got away from me a little bit, only because it happened a couple of days ago. But nonetheless, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in because when it comes to stories like this, oof, I salivate. Well, a few days ago, Dementia Joe had an interview with a number of so-called influencers. One of them happened to be a guy suffering from mental illness in a dress, basically chronicling his transitional days one by one on TikTok. And of course, he was very important, so he had to be brought in. As I said in my intro, mental illness begets mental illness. Let's take a look. This comes out of the Blaze. Biden interviews Days of Girlhood trans activist Dylan Mulvaney, a dude, in the Oval Office. President pledges support for gender-affirming care, i.e. child mutilation for children. And there, like I said, it's the clown show. President Joe Dementia welcomed 6 progressive activists to the White House for this presidential forum. Yes, of course, which is meaningless because no one really cares. The Woke News website forum featured Democrat-friendly topics such as gun legislation, gun control, abortion access, killing your babies. The climate crisis doesn't exist. Criminal legal reform, what's that? Economic instability, yes, destroying the infrastructure and inflation. And of course, trans rights, which everyone has rights, but whatever. One of the interviewers was trans activist Dylan Mulvaney. Mulvaney, a dude, began interviewing saying, "Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning." Biden, in a self-proclaimed Catholic, responded, "God love you." Well, he does, but not this way. Mulvaney, who lives in LA, responded, "I'm extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and the decision just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states have the right to ban gender-affirming care, i.e. child mutilation?" Dementia replied, "I don't think any state has anybody should have a right to do that as a moral question. As a legal question, I just think it's wrong. And then again, I don't know what I ate just now." You know, I think I was saying before we started that my deceased son, used to be Attorney General for the state of Delaware. Biden continued, "He passed the most broadest piece of legislation." What that has anything to do with what this dude is saying, you gotta beat me. But then again, this is the same guy who said that his son died in Iraq, which he didn't. Anywho, Biden claimed that his late son, Beau, was able to convince others to enact legislation that dealt with gender-affirming capability. That would be a no. Biden declared, "So I feel very strongly, that you should have every single solitary right, including the use of gender identity bathrooms for public." Mulvaney responded, "And it feels like Republicans have turned trans and non-binary people into this thing to blame society's downfall in some ways. And this narrative that not only dangerous to our mental health, but also our physical safety, and particularly trans women of color are being murdered at an alarming rate. It's called facts, and again, fact check, false." Mulvaney asked, "How can Democratic leaders be more effective in advocating us trans people and our families, our lives, and our opportunities?" Dementia responded, "I'm not being facetious when I say this, but being seen with people like you, I generally mean it." What he means, we have no idea. "People fear what they don't know," he continued. "They fear what they don't know." Biden claimed that in some states participating in politics are outrageous and immoral. In June, Biden recommended that American children as young as 6 months should get the COOF vaccine. Because now we know how wonderful magical vaccines.
Its words hurt me or my spirit. But do you know what does hurt? Seeing people in power and authority figures creating laws and bills that are actively trying to harm us transhumans, especially trans children. That's why I'm sharing my story with the world. I'm using my platform to stand up for my community and for any of the little Dylans that deserve a clear path to their true identity. Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love it.
The fact of the matter is that when you have someone like Joe Biden, who is clearly suffering from onset dementia, interviewing a dude in a dress who is clearly suffering from a mental illness himself, what do you expect? What do you expect? This administration has been the most progressive, and that is the tamest word that I can use regarding, make-believe. You bring in one guy who handles the coup vaccine, who just happens to be a gay dude running around in, leather outfits. You bring in a spokeswoman who is the most qualified because she's black, lesbian, and has a vagina. We think. We don't know. I may be assuming her gender. Then you bring in another guy who is clearly a dude who is suffering from mental illness himself, who is supposed to be a health expert, and you make him an admiral, a rear admiral at that, in Dick Levine. And now we have this. This, again, you have to laugh, but at the same time, it's sad. It's truly sad that you are confirming, that you are celebrating, that you are waving your pom-poms when it comes to people who are clearly suffering from mental illnesses, who need help, professional help, psychological help, not to be celebrated, not to be cheered on. But sadly, this is the clown show that we're living in 2022, and dementia is the ringleader. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. I want to see more shows like this. Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.